Let's do the damn thing.
Oh, you know what time it is. It's time to take it to the Birdland. It's about to go down. Hope y'all ready. Yeah, let's go. Come and roll with me to the Birdland. Friends got to giving you the word, man. Any other BS is absurd, man. Sports talking, they give it to you firsthand. They can talk chirps, they can talk O's. Yeah, they both lit. That's how it goes. Baltimore squad, Ravens and Poe. Better tune in. Here gonna show. Birdland, Birdland, Birdland. BS. Birdland, Birdland, Birdland. BS.
It's all about that BS, baby.
What's up, BSers?
What's up, peeps?
Fred, Scott, James, and Joe.
It's a little
back in the studio.
It's a little
tonight.
later in here, a little less stinkier this week.
It feels a lot cooler in here. A lot less body heat. lot less jaws jabbering before the show.
Last week, Ryan wasn't exactly friendly to the room. We'll just say that.
No, he wasn't. Well, we got a lot to cover on this week's show. The Ravens finally kick off the season, keep their preseason streak alive. Who cares? But we do have some depth and bubble questions headed into game 2.
Yeah, I'm interested to get your take on a few things there. And the Crusher, he announces his retirement for the Orioles, and it's musical chairs still at the organization. Nothing's new.
Yeah, rosters are changing. People are coming up. People are going down. You got people moving around on all the different rosters through the organization.
The Norfolk bus is getting it's running out of gas. We're going to need to start gas fund.
No Shell and Tell this week as Ryan's quarantining, and we are scheduled to record an episode virtually tomorrow night for the Shell and Tell. So for those Terp fans out there, be on the lookout for that new episode.
And in this week's rundown, we're talking expensive baseball cards, a movie like Ending to the Field of Dreams. It was made for TV, made for a movie, and an almost perfect starting debut. And I know that James is going to get into a quick little thing on a star over in Europe.
Interesting.
It's making a lot of money now.
All right. Well, before we do too much, we do want to remind you, if ever been injured at work or in an auto accident, weren't sure who to call, 855-MD-CRASH. The Maryland personal injury attorneys that'll have your back. If you find yourself in an unfortunate situation just like I have, we all know Drew hasn't, give our team at MD Crash a call right away. We all know the cost of medical bills, lost wages, pain and suffering. It all adds up quickly and can potentially put you in a bad financial place. If you want a team that'll handle your case, big or small, and just give you some peace of mind, save this number now. 855-MD-CRASH. It's 855-632-7274. Be sure to follow them on Facebook for some fun giveaways, including Oriole tickets, which I'm sure pretty much everybody are giving away at this point, and maybe a Ravens game in the future.
Oh, man.
All right, fellas. It's time for some flock talk.
Yeah.
As, like I said, the Ravens keep the preseason streak alive with a 17-14 win over the Saints.
Who gives a shit? It's the preseason.
Exactly. Who cares?
Your number ones weren't out there.
Yeah.
You like there were injuries galore. Like, yeah, it's just leave it alone. It's great. Is it great for the organization? Is it a cool stat?
No. Not even that.
Sure, maybe-ish.
I lost money.
Well, I think so.
You lost money on it.
Yeah.
What were you putting money on a preseason game for? That's your fault.
Nah, it was just guys at work. You know, I was like, hey, $10. You think they're gonna lose?
If you ever want to just give away your money, I'm your guy. Give me a call anytime, James. I'll take that money from you any day.
Oh man.
But yeah, I mean, again, it's a preseason game. Credit to our boy Kevin on Twitter with the help with the show title, Bubble Wrap Season. Players are continuing to kind of drop like flies with injuries. Fortunately, some of these injuries aren't going to be long-term, so I think everybody at Flock Nation, let's take a deep breath. I know a lot of us are in panic mode right now. This week, today, Marlin ends up going down, slipped in some one-on-one drills. Sounded scary at first, obviously, with all the rash of injuries that we've had. Marlon Humphrey's your cornerstone. He's your franchise player, right? He's your best cornerback, not just on your team, but top 3 in the league. He's not number 2 or 3, in my opinion.
The last phrase you want to hear, Marlon goes down. That's the last phrase you want to hear.
Yeah, exactly. Ended up limping off the field. There were some reports out there. Mild strain in the core groin area. Actually sounded kind of very similar to Rashad Bateman's injury status at first. It's not expected to be serious. According to, the reports out there so far.
Yeah, I think the other thing to think about this, right, and this just goes to, regardless, you have some guys that are going to get some more practice time at the cornerback position. We already know we have a lot of depth, and that was one of the things I did want to bring up real quick about the preseason game. Is that I forget who it was that said it, but he was asking, what does it say about all these this record and everything? And he said what it says to me is the depth of this organization, right, as a whole, that you're able to put that together with guys who really don't go out there on an everyday basis. A lot of these guys are trying for a spot. They're vowing for a spot. Some of these guys don't even wind up on rosters. They wind up on practice squads, and they're lucky if they ever see a roster.
Right.
So the fact that you can do that with so many guys like that, because we know that most of them aren't playing, I thought it was a good statement. I thought, and it was real eye opening, because we joke around and we say, whoop-de-doo, it's preseason, but for those guys, I mean, this is their life in their hands. So that is impressive that we have that many guys that are able to come in 2 and 3 and sometimes four-string guys that are still able to put up everything.
Yeah, I mean, Wink made the comment today about Anthony Avery, saying that he's their number 3 cornerback in his eyes, that he is basically an all-pro in the waiting.
He may be the number 3 quarterback too, because Trace McSorley went down with the back spasms.
That is true. Tomorrow starts joint practices with the Panthers as get back into doing that. And we got the preseason game number 2 coming up this Saturday with the Panthers.
Yeah, and some of the roster moves wasn't fully surprised by a few of these. They waived Aaron Adoye and then Devontae Harris, which that one was the one I think was the most surprising, just for the simple fact that he was showing promise. I think the thing that hurt him was last year, if you remember, when they utilized him late in the season, he was getting picked on bad.
Yeah, but he played pretty well, I think. In the last part of that season, I think he played well. He showed enough that he's going to find a role somewhere else. He was already claimed, I believe, earlier today. I'm not even sure who he was claimed by. Was it San Francisco? Yeah, San Francisco put in a claim for him.
Okay.
So he, well wishes to him, man. It's just a numbers game at this point.
Real quick, I love how people get on the Twitter and social media, and they're like, "Oh, I hope someone picks him up. He just had a baby." I had a baby too, like
James,
the man already got enough money to get by. Okay, he has to get a job now.
Yeah, like you say, he found a job really quickly. It's just one of those things. You got a lot of young guys at the position that are showing strong through training camp, through so far, and through the first preseason game. And again, it just comes down to a numbers game.
And speaking of numbers games too, it was the other cut, which I wasn't surprised with at all, which was Eli Wolf.
Yeah.
This tight end room is overstacked as it is. I do think it tells you which way they're starting to look. Mm-hmm. Right now, as of last week, Tomlinson's listed on the depth chart. We're going to get into that a little bit later. There was people thinking, is it going to be Eli? I think we know it's not. We obviously know it's not Eli now, and we're really narrowing down to who I think it's going to be. I don't know that they carry 4 tight ends, and I think the other veteran in that tight end room is gone.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is going to come down to the last cuts, I think, especially at that tight end group. So we'll definitely talk more about that. All right, but let's take a look at this Saints game, because we haven't had a chance to really discuss this. Obviously, it's kind of weird. I actually like the fact that this was a Saturday game. I wish there was more NFL games on Saturday, but obviously I know that conflicts with college football and everything. But it was cool. It was a 7:00 game. You didn't feel like you had to get up early for work the next day. It was nice. You go out there and hang out. I will say this. The stadium vibe was cool. It had all the typical preseason vibe. The crowd was into it for like the first 2 or 3 drives, then it was kind of blah.
What's interesting? ESPN had the attendance
at 70,000.
I was like, are you freaking kidding me?
That's how many sold tickets there were. There were 70,000, but then people couldn't give them away.
It said how many like
paid attendance.
Well, I guess it's technically paid attendance, which is so stupid, because if it's not checked at the gate, it shouldn't be considered attendance.
Nah, they're just looking at ticket sales, and yes, they had 70,000 seats, but I would say that stadium was probably 3/4 of the way full, and that's probably 20. Being friendly. 3/4 of the way full is where I saw it. Okay. For those that are questioning or have questions about like the mask policy, they are supposedly enforcing you to wear your mask while you're in like the concourse area, while you're in the bathrooms, getting food, that kind of thing. But I'll be honest with you, I would say, again, 3/4 of the people weren't wearing masks, and they don't have the manpower to enforce it while you're there. So, I mean, take that with what you will and do what you're going to do, but it doesn't seem like they were enforcing it in any kind of way.
It's going to be the struggle, and I don't think we have it in any of our rundowns or anything, but I think you were the one that broke the news to all of us today with the Raiders being the first team to jump out and say, you're going to have to show proof of vaccination using the CLEAR program, which is the same program that you're using at airports, by the way. So for anybody that's wondering, it's airport. And actually, most of the stadiums started using it.
Nick says we were all social distancing at the stadium. That's exactly right. Everybody was 6 feet away from each other. That's right, Nick. I like your way you think.
So.
All right. Well, like I said, let's talk a little bit about this Saints game. Let's start on the defensive side of the ball because
Fred, before you get into that, my friend.
Okay.
I think there's something we need to do.
You need a bowl of Lucky Charms? What's happening?
I think we need to pray to the patron saint on defense.
What's happening right now?
Saint Wink. He turned 6 turnovers with that
Conor
defense.
McGregor over there?
That's what I had to say. I don't know if Connor's going to come out and punch me in the face or what's happening right now.
Boondock Saints.
There we go. Somebody got it.
Boondock Saints. There it is.
Jesus.
I get you.
There we go.
I like it. No, you're right. I mean,
He is the patron saint of defense to do with what he did with so many guys that weren't starting. 6 turnovers, and it goes with the depth of the turnovers too.
Yeah.
You were having turnovers. You were having late effect, and I know it's against it's threes against threes.
yeah.
But our threes made their threes look just freaking silly.
Yeah. I mean, he had the chain out, and rightfully so. He talked about it today, man. He's like, listen, I'll bring out whatever chain you need me to if it's going to get 6 turnovers in a game.
Garnett's joining on. Namaste, Garnett.
Drippy wink. I like it. 6 turnovers, 3 in the first quarter alone. There were a lot of things that you could take away from this defensive performance. There were a few people that stood out.
Standouts, yeah.
We'll talk about the ones first. Patrick Queen, I think, was a standout in this game, and for multiple reasons. Obviously, he had the sack on Taysom Hill, which Taysom Hill is not an easy guy to bring down. He's strong, he's quick, he's athletic, right? That's part of it. But as Sarah Ellison kind of pointed out, where you see his game improve is in his ability to read a play.
Yes.
And he was able to run down the running back in the flats before they got any kind of a gain on it. I think it would end up being like a 1 or 2 yard loss. But his explosion and ability to read that play and diagnose it as it happened, that's where I think he gets 3 thumbs up if I could give 3, because he did a phenomenal job, and I hope that continues.
You can tell he's put himself through work, and he's gotten a lot better in that sense. Another guy that I don't want to say it's surprising, because I think we kind of have seen it out of him. It was surprising last year when the Ravens actually dropped him, and that's Geno Stone. Yeah. Because Geno in this game, 3 tackles with 2 interceptions, one of them with a great sliding catch off a tip, which was perfect timing, perfect placement, and awareness to not just stand there. Your guy's got a beat on the ball. If he doesn't get it, you want to be somewhere around it, and he was, and it worked out in our favor.
Yeah, it's kind of where I was going to go with the Geno thing. Listen, he had a good game, and I hope that this gives him the confidence that he needs to continue to build on that and get better and better. He was kind of in the right place at the right time on both of those plays, but you still got to be able to make it, and he did. So it's a big game for him. He was a guy that, was he a 7th round pick, I think, last year, or 6th round pick? He was a late round pick and showed flashes in the preseason, but then the Ravens ended up giving up on him, goes to Houston.
Tell me why. Tell me why I just think you called him a squirrel.
A squirrel?
Even a blind squirrel finds a nut.
I mean,
or a clock's right.
Or finds 2.
Even a clock's right twice a day.
I'm not taking anything away from him. Listen, 2 picks is 2 picks. Good on you. It's just, again, you got to be in the right place at the right time.
One earlier in the game, one a little later in the game. I mean, it wasn't like he was going against 2s, but it's something that we talked about depth. That's a guy that's good to see. So.
Well, one area that I really wanted to see, and this is kind of what we talked about last week, is we wanted to really, this is where you're going to get a good glimpse of the rookies. And I know one big rookie that Joe over there has had his eye on since the day he was drafted. He was probably the only one in this room
I was excited.
that was excited and pumped for the pick. Obviously, the Odafe Owe pick, Jason Owe at the time, didn't, I think some of us had our hesitations with the lack of sack production and all that stuff. We didn't fully, I guess, grasp and appreciate the athletic ability that this guy had. And, man, he put it all on display, and I mean in ways that I couldn't even imagine. He was playing special teams in this game as a gunner. A 6'5", 250-pound outside linebacker playing gunner on special teams, and he's the first one down there.
And had they not called a fair catch, like the guy that was catching it would have been toast.
Oh, he'd have been done. You
He'd have
imagine
been
that?
toast.
You imagine being like a 5'8", 5'9" wide receiver, running back there, waiting to field a ball, and you see this guy 6'5", 250 barreling on you.
Well, have you
No.
seen, have
No,
you seen
thank
the
you.
video of when they show the replay and they were talking about it with the Ravens? They show the kick and you watch this guy look down, look back up, look down, and then look back up again and go, nope, fair catch this shit. This guy's coming too fast. Like it was perfect.
Yeah.
But look, hey, what is one thing, if anything, that John Harbaugh loves? He loves him a versatile player.
Yeah. Yep.
Especially when they're versatile on special teams. The fear that you want to make sure that you have is that this guy is somebody that he's going to have to get some reps.
Yeah.
On defense, you can't sit here and hold him for special teams, and hopefully that happens.
And one of the things I thought was kind of telling about his press conference after the game, he talked about some of the nerves that he had going into this game. He was worried whether his athleticism might not translate to the NFL game, at game speed type thing. I think he was able to nix that worry and not have to worry, because he was in the backfield. He almost
You're fast, bro. You're fast.
He should have had a sack. He just let the I think it was Winston at the time, slip out from underneath of him. But man, I'm telling you, his speed popped in this game. So I'm super, super excited about that.
Yeah.
And if you're going to mention outside linebackers, you can't not mention Dalen Hayes, because
No.
Dalen Hayes, again, had a big game in this game. Another guy that flashed,
Yes.
showed where,
Showed progression.
Showed progression. He was able to get into the backfield. Another one should have had a sack, didn't wrap it up. And
But that's the quick progression you want out of your drafted guys, right? This isn't, we're when you look at last year, guys like Jalen Ferguson, right, who we were a little worried about, we weren't necessarily fully seeing what we wanted to see out of him. These guys they're kind of as advertised, right? And they're showing it so far. Now, what happens if they get out there against some ones? That's what we got to see. That's what preseason is about, is figuring out who it is. And then the first few games of the season, you're doing that too. But, one of the other rookies that kind of came out and really clinched it for him in the fourth, but showed some good flashes. Sean Wade.
yeah.
Dorsey going on IR yesterday. This really helps this kid's chances, because the kid showed that he's. Some people have said he's a little bit slower, but his football, he was in the right places at the right time, and that's the thing, right? You can be slow, but if you're in the right place at the right time consistently, you can cover that up.
Yeah, I think what he showed in this game was the thing with Sean Wade coming out of the draft was, as a slot corner at Ohio State, he played great, and he would have been a top 15 pick, right? Then he doesn't go into the draft. He comes back for his senior season. They put him outside, and he looked terrible. He was a shell of himself, right?
Yeah.
So I thought bringing this guy in, the Ravens, this was going to be the heir apparent to Tavon Young. When Tavon Young contract's up, Sean Wade's the next guy to step in. But you're seeing him, giving him some chances outside. He makes that big play, like you said, to clinch the game. And, it's a clutch play. I don't care if it's preseason or not. It's a clutch play. So that's good. And that's a guy that I was worried. I wasn't sure if he was going to be able to make the roster again because of numbers, right? Or they were going to do some kind of injury stash, hideaway thing like they do every year. But, again, a good game for him as well.
Yeah, and I know there was somebody that you had your eye on in this game, other than Chris Westry, which we're going to get to in a little bit.
Yeah. The kid that I've been talking about since we picked him up as an undrafted free agent, Darius Washington, the safety out of TCU.
Kid was at as you advertised.
Yeah, he's again, smaller guy. That's the only knock on him. If you're going to give him any knock, it comes down to size. But you're not going to question his athleticism. You're not going to question his heart. He's got great instincts. He's still a physical player, even being 5'8" and whatever weight he is. He still throws his weight around good. He forced the fumble on that real nice hit late in that game. He almost had a pick late as well.
Yeah.
So again, he was kind of all over the field. That makes me feel good about the potential, no guarantees with this, but the potential loss of a Deshaun Elliott next year into free agency. But again, this is a guy that if you're going to keep him, you're going to have to figure out a way to stash him in the roster, because he is not a guy that I think would last on a practice squad.
Yeah, no, this guy, with some growth and some development, this guy has the ability to because he can be all over the place and read the defense really well. He's got the ability, or read the offense really well. He's got the ability to be a rangy free safety.
Yeah.
Right. And what have we said we need? We need that true ball hawking type free safety. Is he there yet? No, but I do see potential in this kid to have the upswing to get there.
100%. The other guy that I think a lot of people were questioning on draft day was Brandon Stevens, right? Because comes out of a smaller college, SMU. He was a corner that we converted over from running back, and then he played corner in college, and then the Ravens had drafted him with the potential to be a safety. So we weren't really even sure where this guy fit in, right? And I think the Ravens used a 4th or 5th round pick on him. But again, had a very good game. 7 tackles in this. He had the half a sack.
Yeah.
He got a pressure early on that forced a pick. So another kid, another young guy. Listen, so far, these rookies are making an impact, and that's what we're looking for.
Yeah, they're showing out, and they're doing exactly what you want them to do, especially guys like Stevens. I think, the people that do question this kid, I don't think, nobody in this room, I think, questioned Stevens. I think we saw the potential there.
Yeah.
I think the question was more so, could we have gotten him later? I don't know that you could have. I think somebody else would have taken this kid because he does have potential, and he showed it in this game. I'd like to see him get some earlier snaps just to see what he does against more of the twos, and see what he can really pull out there.
It's still early. It's a small sample size. It was 1 game, but listen, it's their first taste of NFL football, and to come out and play the way that those rookies did, to me, tells a lot about them, tells a lot about their character, how much battle-tested they were at the collegiate level, so all showed out well.
Well, the one guy that, we all picked a group or a guy that last week that we said we had our eyes on in this game. So what did you see out of Chris Westry in this game?
Everything that we've been seeing in practice.
Okay.
I mean, he showed his amazing athleticism. He can close and recover in a flash for being somebody his size. You don't get that rare combination often. The speed, the ability to close at 6'4". Like, he is, like I said before, he is similar to Jimmy in Jimmy's earlier days from that standpoint. There's a lot to like right now about the depth at cornerback, and Chris Westry 100% is making a case for this roster. I hate to be the Ravens because listen, if knock on wood, all of these injuries, we avoid them in the secondary because, that's kind of our kryptonite. We always end up having injuries, especially in the preseason, to our secondary. If we can avoid that, the Ravens are going to be in a very tough situation as to who they keep because a lot of these guys are playing really well.
Well, thank you to David. How much is it the rookies?
God?
How much is it Wink? How much is it Wink being Wink? I love it. Every time we see Wink, I'm going to start doing that. But no, and that's a great point, though, right? How much of this is rookies? How much of this can you put on EDC and his ability to get value out of guys, right? And especially draft guys and undrafted guys. That's one of the things you have to kind of look at and say it's a combination. I think of the 2 or 3 of them. It's the scouting, it's EDC's choice, and it comes down to Wink. I think this year it was really Wink. I think Wink actually had a big say in some of these draft picks.
I'm sure he did, yeah.
Because he's like, I can do a lot with this kid. I can do a lot with this kid, and I think that they really look at it because he is the patron saint of the defense.
Oh, Jesus.
You sure it's not
Is this going to be an ongoing thing now?
You sure it's not Rob Ryan?
Yeah, right.
Got the head for it.
I think you hit it I think you hit the nail on the head there.
Yeah.
It's 3 phases. It's Eric DeCosta putting the right pieces in place. It's Wink using those pieces, and then the players being able to execute. Again, great job either way.
I've started something in the chat room. Garnett's going all hell Wink now.
What we got hashtag?
I'm going to get a Wink shirt. I'm not even going to say it. I'll tell you guys after the show. We're going to do it.
Oh, God. Here we go.
We're going to do it.
Another shirt that we're going to get copyright infringement on.
Nope. We're going to talk to Wink. We're going to work this out with Wink.
All right.
I'm going to get Wink to wear it.
Let's switch over to the offensive side of the ball. The offensive side of the ball wasn't as pretty as the defensive side was. They obviously struggled early behind poor offensive line play and McSorley. But before we judge too harshly about the offense, let's remember they played this game without a bunch of players. They played this game without Lamar, without Hollywood, Sammy Watkins, Rashad Bateman, Mark Andrews, Nick Boyle, Gus the Bus, Stanley, Zeitler. You had limited snaps with Villanueva and Bozeman. So, yeah, that's a good portion of your starting offense that did not play in this game. So let's pump the brakes on being too uber critical with how this offense performed, considering the situation.
You also didn't mention that Ben Cleveland goes down with a concussion.
Right. Exactly.
There's a lot that happens there. But with that being said, one of the things that I was very surprised with, because I thought they would get him, just in a little bit of game flow. Lamar doesn't see one snap in this game.
And rightfully so.
Okay.
Behind, again, your 2s and 3s on the offensive line, I'm not putting my franchise quarterback out there, my future $40+ million man out there in the first preseason game. I don't care if it's for 1 drive, 2 drives, the first quarter. It's okay. To me, it's not worth the risk. I think Lamar can get that same kind of work in the second or third preseason game when the guys come back and they're a little bit more healthy and you've got your first stringers out there. Because honestly, you want the best protection out there, 1. And 2, you want all the weapons out there that he's going to be working with. You know what I mean? So I think I'm okay.
Okay.
From a fan's perspective, it sucked not being able to see Lamar out there play. Of course, you always want to see Lamar out there. But I just didn't think the risk reward was worth it.
I guess considering he missed a week and a half worth of reps,
right? And that's the other part of it. That was the
surprise. Now I know that he did suit up. All the guys suited up pregame, got out there, worked it out a little bit, and then most of your starters went back and took everything off.
Right.
But it was just a little surprising to see that was the case. But we're getting into quarterback talk right away here, because people are looking at Trace. They're looking at Tyler Huntley.
It's a battle.
By the numbers, Tyler Huntley in this game kind of showed up, right? Mm-hmm. The thing is that everybody needs to remember he was going against 3s and 4s. Trace was more so going against 2s. A few 1s. The Saints really didn't have a lot of their 1s out there either.
Yeah, mostly 2s.
Mostly 2s. But it's kind of one of those, okay, is he that good? Or is he that good against 3s?
Honestly, though, so part of it was the offensive play calling early on was part of it. Second part is that offensive line was so bad they couldn't get any push, so the run game couldn't get anything going, right? Again, Trace McSorley, from what we heard after the game, apparently was dealing with back spasms. So if anybody knows anything about bad backs, I've had back spasms, and they suck. I don't know how the hell this guy was ever out in an NFL field. I don't know if that was an excuse. Harb's not one to give excuses.
Cortisone.
Whatever the shot they gave him something. He managed to go out there and play. I don't think McSorley had as bad a game as some people wanted to paint the picture. Was it great? No, it wasn't great. I don't think Huntley's game was great. And when you look at the stats, they're pretty similar. Outside of the one interception, McSorley threw.
By the numbers, Huntley's numbers were better, and I'll put that in quotes, but there really wasn't a lot to do. Now, you're not really going to get a true fact, because McSorley, as we learned this week, he's probably going to be out for at least 2 weeks or so with the back issues and flaring up again, having some more issues. So we're not going to see Huntley this year.
Shout out to our boy at Game Medicine on Twitter as well. A friend of the show. He keeps us in the loop all the time, keeps us updated on the latest injuries, news around the Ravens. So appreciate you. It looks like you're tuned in today, man. Appreciate all the updates as always.
And he says it was a grade 2 back strain on Trace.
Yeah, that's serious. Yeah. I mean, that's like I said, I can go out and do a little bit of shoveling and tweak something in my back, and I'm definitely not going out there and throwing balls around. There's no way.
My back hurts from carrying this show while you were gone.
Oh, Jesus Christ. There we go. But listen, like I said, I just didn't think he played as bad as everybody made it out to be, considering the circumstances. He's still 11 of 18 for 86 yards. He rushed the ball for 4 rushes for 25 yards, so a 6.3 average. You compare that to Huntley. Huntley was 12 of 16 for 79 yards, 7 rushes for 43 yards. He did have that 17-yard scramble that looked very similar to a Lamar scramble. So visually, I get it. It looks like a seamless transition when you go from Lamar to a Tyler Huntley. I understand visually that looks better. But again, I just don't think McSorley did as bad considering the circumstances.
No, and the other thing that people are forgetting.
Huntley is still QB2 though.
The people that are forgetting are paying attention is when you look at that situation with the interception versus Huntley's fumble, right? Huntley's fumble was a big thing that happened, and for them, Harbs when they did it through through WBAL,
yeah,
they showed Harbs Come here.
Yeah, gave him the finger.
Come
gave him
here.
the old finger.
You come
Nobody
here.
wants that finger.
No, and it was, you could tell. Now, I don't know if maybe he saw the same thing that the booth saw, but one of the things that the booth immediately jumped to was they were like, he didn't tuck it. He didn't tuck it. In slow-mo, he did tuck it. He just didn't secure it. There's a difference. You got to get that secured.
Right.
I don't know what John said to him, but I think it was probably tuck, and then they started talking, and you could see John's tone change a little bit.
You just got to get rid of that. You got to get rid of that ball. You got to get down, whatever. Just you can't take that kind of a hit. And that's one of the biggest differences between Lamar and Huntley is Lamar's ability to not take a hit, to know when to get down and to know when to get rid of the ball.
But Lamar took some hits early in his career too. Not as bad, right? But he would also leave the ball. Think about some of the fumbles that we saw out of Lamar.
Yep.
It's very similar, and it kind of leans you to say who's the more plug and play guy. It's definitely at this point, from what we've seen, it's Huntley.
So I got to go to the Penn State fans just to get your guys' overall opinion. I'll start with you, Joe. How did you feel McSorley looked like in this game?
I think he looked pretty good. The one pass he did where he got nailed in the chest and completed it, that was good because you can take a hit.
Right.
But to me, if you compare interception and the fumble, I think the fumble was worse. I mean, I'm watching the game live at home, and I'm like, holy shit, he just blew out his knee or something. It looked that bad. Like, at quick speed, once they slowed it down, it wasn't as bad. But, I mean, I think they both guys looked average, honestly.
Yeah, like I said.
And you need better than average as a backup now.
Right.
Yeah.
And I like both guys, so we'll see.
All right, James, what did you think on McSorley and Huntley?
I think McSorley didn't look too good. I don't know if it was his back or not. Didn't look like him as usual. But Huntley, he looked good. I think he's faster than Lamar, he's bigger.
So there's a difference between straight line speed, because I agree with this, and I actually got into a debate with this with somebody else off air. I think straight line speed, there are a few people on the Ravens that are faster than Lamar in straight line speed. It's his elusiveness, his quick twitch start and stop that separates him from everybody else. And that's where he is a better runner than a Huntley.
Correct. But also, like, I'm going to give this out to Garnett. He posted, he goes, if the line was horrible with Trace, it definitely got worse with Huntley. And Huntley I think he looked good. And to me, I think it's going to be a 1-2 with Huntley and McSorley as a Penn State guy. He's either going to be out or stashed somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh, if he doesn't wind up on the IR with this injury, that could be a way that they wind up stashing him for a little while, because people aren't going to get full tape on him and have him be able to do it. But you brought up O-line, and James, you talked last week about the O-line, and you were, that's where you were looking. You had two potential starters to begin the game in Bozeman and Villanueva. They get limited snaps, but what did you see, since you were looking at it? What did you see out of the O-line in this game?
It looked almost like last year. Like, I worry at times. Like, we need our line to be healthy. We need to have our line there for Lamar on a daily basis to get continuously rep to be able to be a Super Bowl contender. Because if you looked at what happened to the Chiefs, they didn't have their line. Mahomes is running around for daylight, and that could be Lamar too.
And he's one of the only quarterbacks in the NFL, talking about Mahomes, that could do that. You know what I mean? And be able to still win a game or make plays.
And who is it that just said this? Craig. Credit to Craig here. I love it. We were talking about Lamar real quick. When Lamar runs, he's like the grease guy from Family Guy.
That's good. I like it.
I like it. But yeah, there's just I think the biggest thing that came out of this game for me, I have more questions than when we went into the game.
As far as that offensive line?
Offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, I still think this unit, when it's healthy, could be one of the better offensive lines in the league when healthy. But that's a big question mark. And in this game, it showed you're 1 or 2 injuries away from going from a top flight offensive line to a bottom 5 offensive line real quick.
So, like, I can see where you're coming from. My concern with that statement is you're talking about an offensive line that doesn't know who they really have at right guard. Left guard, the guy that you thought was going to come in and steal the spotlight, now is out in concussion and wasn't actually doing it.
Right guard is going to be Zeitler. That's what I'm saying. When this line is is fully healthy, you're going to have Stanley at left tackle. Left guard is the one that's still kind of up in the air. Personally, I think that, the big kid they brought in from the rookie last year, he's been playing swing tackle. I can't think of his name right now. Tyree Phillips.
Okay.
I think he looked good at left guard.
Okay.
Ultimately, that's going to be Ben Cleveland's spot, but I think to start the season, Tyree Phillips should be our left guard. I think he plays better. That just goes to show they need more tackle depth.
You talk about Stanley, that's a guy coming off an injury. You don't know what you really have there.
That's why
you
I
don't
said
know
healthy.
what you're doing.
I said healthy.
I understand that.
Caveat.
But that's what I'm saying. Like you're making a bold statement that this could be the best. Yeah, it very well could be. The problem is from end to end. Zeitler, I guess at this point, you're saying is you think he's the lock on right guard.
Yeah. He's the veteran that they brought in to solidify that right guard spot.
Yeah, and they've also talked about rotating him, Phillips, over there too. So that's another thing that's there. So okay, now if he's your one guy, Villanueva, we've been hearing in practice, hasn't looked the greatest partially because he shifted from left tackle to right tackle. Mm-hmm. Now you're starting to see how valuable it was to have a tackle that could play good on either side, right? You got your other tackle who's coming off an injury that you really got to protect him. This is a guy you gave money to be your future left tackle, and he goes down. You need him to be healthy. You can't put him in situations that he's there.
Well, he doesn't do you any good sitting in the sidelines and sitting in the garage. You got to use him.
I agree, but what I'm saying is that there's a lot of what ifs in this. Yeah. Right? What if he's back healthy?
What if they stay healthy, and what if they all come back healthy for week one is a big what if. But that's where
that is the biggest what if. Though.
I know, but that's where I'm coming from.
I just want to say I think it's a lot better for him to have an ankle injury compared to a knee injury. I think you can come back a lot better and be better from an ankle injury compared to a knee. I think knee, you're putting more weight on it. You can tweak it real easy. So I think he'll be fine. He looks good at practice.
So far, the reports are that he's been practicing well, that things are going good. They're slowly kind of ramping him back up, so that's a good sign. As they mentioned, Bradley Bozeman went down in this game with a minor ankle sprain that he was dealing with. Yeah. That's going to be your starting center. Tristan Colon played pretty well in this game in his absence. We didn't see any issues with snaps, did we? No.
Throughout the game, there were a few high snaps, nothing crazy, but there were a few.
I didn't see anything out of the norm.
There were a few outside of this zone.
Okay, well, that's a big improvement over where they were last year, so I'll take it. I think that this offensive line, again, has potential. They just need more tackle depth. I'm not worried about guard depth at all. I think we've got plenty of pieces that could fill in at guard and be fine. We need more tackle depth. Maybe down the road, we take some of these riches that we have at corner, if we stay healthy at that position, and turn those into trade pieces for offensive line help. Maybe that's a thing where you get a team that's got a couple extra tackles, or that might have a guy that's on a veteran deal or something that they want to get rid of a contract, and maybe we pick up that trade and bring in that veteran backup at offensive tackle. I'd like to see that too.
Yeah, I definitely like to see them do that. I think it's going to be a big question mark if they can do that, and really it's going to, like I said, it's going to come down to them getting healthy.
Now, you mentioned watching a certain positions group that's got a variety of people fighting for one roster spot, essentially, and that's the tight end 3 roster spot.
Yeah,
what did you see?
So last week they put out the first depth chart that we've seen, and they had Tomlinson listed as number 3, and then they had the other two guys that I was saying to watch in Oliver and Poljan that would be the guys that, bubble type guys. I think we're seeing more and more that the Ravens are looking at Oliver heavily.
Yeah, and they should be.
Heavily. Oliver in this game, he has 4 receptions on 6 targets for 22 yards, 51 snaps in this game. Highest out of any of our tight ends. So great to see. Eli Wolf was on the lower end, but he had he dropped, and it shows with them dropping him and him with the drop. I think it just goes to show that they're kind of looking past these veterans at this point, which is why I'm a little worried about Tomlinson. Tomlinson gets 15 snaps. I think maybe a little bit of that is what you're getting with Tomlinson, right?
Tomlinson's definitely more of the pass blocking tight end than he is the receiving tight end. So that's in the tight end group. It's going to depend upon a couple of things.
What you do with Nick Boyle?
What's Nick Boyle's status and health, right? Because obviously he is lead blocker number 1.
And how do you utilize him?
Right. And then number 2, what do you want out of that tight end 3? Do you want to bring in another Hayden Hurst kind of player? Because if you want to bring in another Hayden Hurst kind of player,
Josh Oliver's
that's
guy.
Oliver 100%.
Yeah.
If you want another blocking tight end because you're worried about,
Boyle
coming back healthy. God, name's slipping me. Boyle coming back healthy, then yeah, you're going to want to keep a guy like Tomlinson around because you're going to want that ability to block.
Well, and Tomlinson, like I said, in this game, 15 snaps. One of the things that
Garnett says we need Oliver. I agree.
I don't know that they'll carry 4 tight ends. I don't think it makes sense. So do you try to figure out something with Tomlinson? He does have maybe a little bit of value. Is he going to get you anything crazy in return? I really don't think so.
No.
So there are people saying, oh, you could trade him if you want to keep Oliver. You're not going to be able to trade him. Nobody's going to be willing to trade. They're going to wait till you drop him, or you're going to have to stash him on like an IR type situation for it to even happen. I just don't think it's there. One interesting thing in the depth chart, we talked about when they drafted Ben Mason, they said that they were drafting him as a tight end. Mm-hmm. He came out as a fullback 2 on the depth chart. Nowhere on the tight end depth chart at all. Interesting, that they go this route. I don't know that with that happening, 2 fullbacks is crazy to me.
That's what I'm saying.
Put them on your practice squad. If somebody wants to take them, they can have them. I'm sure you could find 1 or 2 other guys to be able to come in and do something similar. But I just don't see him fitting into this at any point. I do expect to see a little bit more use out of Poljan next week.
He's looked good in practice.
Yeah, he's looked good. Made some impressive catches this past week in the end zone, including a one-handed catch. He got 7 offensive snaps against the Saints. He did have, I think, 2, maybe 3 on special teams, but it really wasn't a lot. So I'm curious to see what they do out of him. I really, if I'm being honest, out of what I've seen, I think I would have made my decision at this point, unless I'm super worried about Nick Boyle. I think I'm going Oliver, but even still, Oliver's a big physical guy. He's physical.
Yeah.
He was going up and getting the ball in practice. He went up and got the ball in this game once.
He's athletic, though.
I think he could, if you worked with him on the blocking. I don't know I haven't really paid attention to his blocking.
I wouldn't say he's a bad blocker. I'd say he's an average blocker. He's not on a Boyle level, but he's an average blocker.
So yeah, I mean,
Better than Tebow.
Yeah,
much better than Tebow.
Yeah, apparently.
Hey-o.
But no, like with Poljan, if you can stash Poljan, because Poljan is a guy that can catch, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's got good hands.
He could definitely be a practice squad stash.
He could be a practice squad stash, and then if something were to re-happen with Boyle, now you see the shift up, Oliver shifting into that tight end 2 with Poljan being the 3. I think that's what makes the most sense here. But it's yet to be shown. There's still a lot to be seen. There's still a lot going on. Now I know he isn't here, but Ryan pointed out Justice Hill last week.
Yeah.
What did you think? What did you see out of what the little bit that they utilized Justice Hill?
The same old with Justice Hill. I haven't seen any improvement from him for the couple of years that we've had him. He's a good special teamer. I'll give him that, which obviously that has been his saving grace with John Harbaugh. But at some point, you got to bring more value than just special teams. We got enough guys on this roster right now. One that I think, and I'll talk about it later, I think his roster spot might be in jeopardy. But I think you got to bring more value. And right now at our RB3 position, I think his job is a big question mark. I think he's about Ryan hit the nail on the head with this. You got a couple guys that came in, Williams and McCrary, that looked like better fits. They looked more explosive. They
find the edge quicker.
Yeah, they were able to find the holes. They were able to use their speed. I liked both of those guys better than what I saw so far out of Justice Hill.
I liked Williams, especially when he got out to the outside and he was able to get up the sideline. Man was able, I think that he had like a 21-yard run at one point.
Right.
He just looked good, and it was really, exactly what you want to see out of an RB3 that can, be flexible but still find the holes and grind when he needs to grind.
Yeah. Listen, he's still got 2 more games. The Ravens are not going to pull the plug on Justice Hill until final cuts.
Yeah.
Right. So Williams and McCrary still have to put more tape out there. It was a small sample size. I didn't get a ton of carries, but I liked what I saw so far.
You know who I think I spotted in the stands at the game?
Who's that?
What's the name of the Vikings GM? I think he's in the stands.
Yeah. I think EDC should have him on speed dial.
I think he does have him on speed dial.
Yeah. Saint special.
Hold on. Hit it. Hit it, Scott. Oh.
There's a delay.
Well, I had it too high.
There you go.
Yeah, no, I mean, so to that point, a certain special teamer, Jake Verity, the undrafted free agent kicker, looked good in this game.
Yeah.
2 for 2 on his field goal attempts.
53 and a 42.
53 and 42. Does Eric DaCosta pull his magic again, and do we end up getting some sort of draft pick for yet another undrafted free agent kicker?
I smell a trade.
Yeah, I smell the trade.
I smell it coming.
I'd love to see that happen.
The other guy, Johnny Townsend, is someone that you could, also arguably say, look, he did a pretty decent job. He did have one touchback, but he put one inside the 20. He had 3 of them total. He was averaging about 40 on his kicks, but they were also he was kicking them from the 55, right? When he was kicking him, it wasn't like he was super far back. So that's one of the things that you have to look at is that Townsend is also another guy that could bring you value. Or is that a guy that you can stash and maybe sit on? And, we love Sam Cook. I hope he sticks around for a while. He's getting up there.
Yeah.
Is that around the corner in the future years? Do you start looking now? Is this them looking now? The fact that you last year or 2 years ago, you brought in Kari Vedvik, and then this year you bring in 2 guys. Last year, I think during preseason, it was just Tucker and Cook doing everything. I don't remember them bringing anybody in last year. Am I going crazy?
I think Townsend was there.
Was Townsend there?
I'm pretty sure Townsend was there, yeah.
All right. Well, either way, he still didn't look bad. So.
No, right. And listen, I don't know how the Ravens do it, but somehow they tend to find these diamonds in the rough when it comes to kickers, and they've turned into
in general.
Multiple kickers for other teams over the years that have done successful thing other than, Vedvik, who's now kicking in the CFL or where the hell he's at this point. But we'll take that 5th round
pick. He might
pick.
be in the European Football League.
What happens if he does well? Like, what if they shop Tucker for a 1st round?
That ain't happening. Get out of here. Moving on from that comment. Jesus Christ. All right, so done game 1.
Wait, I got something for James.
Stay off the weed.
There it is. All right, moving on to preseason game number 2 versus the Panthers. Obviously, priority number 1 in this game is going to be health. First and foremost, as always, but what is something that you're looking for out of this game? What's something that you're watching?
I'm going to pull James this week. It's O-line. I have to see improvement out of the O-line.
Yeah.
I have to see it. You have to do something to validate it, especially when it comes to the ones. You can't not get Lamar out there this week because you're afraid. He needs to get some reps out in, real game speed with this different offensive line.
Right.
You need to get this number 1 offensive line. I understand Stanley's probably not going to be out there, but you've got to get these guys out there. They have to be in that comfortable spot.
To answer your question, Justin said, who were they reaching out for from the Broncos? They were looking at Tim Patrick was the call that they made. Tim Patrick's a wide receiver that actually was in the Ravens system a few years back. Ended up didn't get a chance here. Went out to Denver, put together a couple of strings of good play out there. I think the Ravens were just looking at him because of familiarity with the system and obviously some of the question marks that we have at wide receiver
You're
right now.
kicking the tires on anything you can right now.
Right, exactly. For me, in this game, I do want to see Lamar in this game with a caveat that I want to see at least 4/5 of that starting offensive line out there in order for that to happen. I'm not expecting Ronnie Stanley to play in this game, so there's 1/5. I'm expecting to see Bozeman back from the injury. I just want to see Villanueva out there. Zeitler's come back from his injury. And if Phillips is out there at left guard, I'm good with those 4 and putting Lamar out there. I'd like to see him play a quarter. I'd like to see him play a quarter and see what this actual first-string offense is going to look like, minus the injuries that we've had. And hopefully Hollywood can work his way back in.
Yeah, the biggest thing that scares me is honestly, of anybody, it's the veteran in Villanueva.
Yeah.
Because we've heard the struggles on that right side.
Got to get him out there, though.
I understand that, but you're talking about wanting to risk Lamar. They said he looks like he's fumbling over his feet out there at right guard at times.
I haven't seen that, and I haven't heard that. I heard he was struggling early, and it's an adjustment. He even admitted that it's an adjustment. Everything is reverse. It's like the reverse.
I haven't heard much recently. Let me put it that way. So I may be looking at week 1, week 2 when they were saying that, which was 3 weeks ago, by the way. But at the same time, you're going to put him out there. You better have a conversation with Villanueva. Dude, you're fucking protecting him.
They have to get out on the field because there are a lot of pieces that are new. Villanueva and Zeitler are new, right? So they got to start working on continuity and communication and learning each other. This is all a brand new offense for these guys, right? So they're doing things that they've never done in their career, or if they have done them, they've done them very limited in their career, or haven't done them since college, right? It's been a long time for some of these guys. So they got to see how these guys can do.
Hey, Stephanie.
Appreciate the donation. Thank you. That means a lot. So I want to see the offensive line out there, not only for Lamar, but again, continuity. I also want to see this running game get going. J.K. Dobbins had he had nowhere to go. The offensive line got zero push in that first game. He had nowhere to go. He was a liability. You talk about being worried somebody's going to get hurt. I was afraid J.K. Dobbins was going to get hurt because the offensive line couldn't block anybody.
Yeah, don't be that. Drew will be upset.
Right.
If Drew makes it back to the casting couch, we'll see.
I didn't know this was out there, but I didn't know Jason Peters was out there. I would love for them to bring him in, a 1-year veteran. He's a big guy that can block.
Right.
But he went to Chicago.
Yeah. Like I said, there's teams out there that are going to be making some tough roster decisions. There are going to be some pieces that the Ravens are going to have to either cut and get anything for, or find the right trade partner, and hopefully that's where they can get some of this offensive line.
Joe, what are you looking at in this Panthers game? What are you watching out for?
I'm excited for the young guys. The Hayes guy from Michigan, he looked phenomenal to me. I mean, he was all over the field with OA, two Big Ten guys, Wade. Get the young guys out there flying around and tackle somebody, and that's what I think. But we'll see.
No, I like it.
All right, Fred. What about you? Like, what is the one thing? If you could focus in on one thing, what is it? Is it O-line too?
I don't want to focus on, obviously my main concern is the offensive line, but outside of that, I do want to see. I'm intrigued to see what continues to happen with this RB3 position, and I say that because we all know how much the Ravens run the football, right? And obviously the bulk of those carries are going to be J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards and Lamar Jackson. I get that. But you have to have that third running back that can spell these guys when they need and when they're on these long drives, and somebody who can catch the ball out of the backfield. That's why they're working with J.K. Dobbins, right? Because they don't have as much of a receiving threat out of the backfield. Gus Edwards can catch the ball, but he's not a big receiving
your power
threat.
back right now.
He's more of your north and south runner than he is a receiving threat. I want to see what these guys can bring from a receiving standpoint out of the backfield as well.
Yeah, and to that point, I think with Williams and McCrary, their speed, I think, is the one thing that's going to help them in that sense, and it's going to push Justice Hill out of this conversation pretty easily.
All right, James, it's time for a social media shout out. Who's been out in the chat room saying what?
So we have Dave, Stephanie, Game Medicine, Nick, Garnett, Craig Zero, Joe Shipley, Flock Nation, Shell and Tell, Dwayne Jones, and Ryan. So
Ryan's on 2 different channels.
Yeah, I know, right?
Shell and Tell. That is
like, trying to get the comments up, I guess. But just everybody's talk about what we're talking about, mostly about offensive line. But yeah, like, they want to get these guys out there, and then we didn't talk much about the wide receivers, but they're going down, and some are about to go out the door too. So,
yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the Ravens do with wide receiver. Obviously, Boykin is not doing himself any favors by still sitting on the sideline. The only thing that's doing him favors are the fact that there's injuries that are popping up. Because honestly, if this receiving core was healthy, he would 100% be on the outside looking in, but he might end up making the roster just because they don't have enough guys.
I do like what Bateman called out. What's it? Dan Orlovsky. Like, chill, dude. We'll be fine.
Yeah, I love the kid's attitude. I love how he's just kind of embracing, Ravens flock and just the culture here. I'm a big fan of Rashad Bateman for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Since it is social media shout out, thank you again, Stephanie, for that. For those of you that do ask what donating, stuff like that, if you watch the ticker down at the bottom, it has everything of how to donate. So we do appreciate it. It just goes back to all the equipment and shit you see here.
All right, Scott, it's time for some bros, bows, and O's.
Yeah.
Orioles now, 38 and something at this point? I don't even
79
know. Are they 79? Yikes.
Yeah, it's been rough.
They've lost a lot.
4 straight series.
In a row. 12 in a row.
12 straight losses in a row.
Ouch.
4 straight series. Swept the last 3 series. been bad.
Yeah,
Current
it's been real
series against
bad.
the Rays, odds are in our favor because we're playing 4 games to not get swept again. Like, odds are in our favor. It's so nice. The other thing that's,
And they're not just losses. These are blowout losses.
I'm going to get to that in a little bit. We'll talk about that a little bit later, okay?
man.
We'll talk about that, how that's going.
What is that,
But
Drew's picture in the background?
yeah, no. Drew's picture's coming up later on. That's another one. That would be Chris Davis's retirement beach, as you can see. Well, we're going to get to that in a second, too. But the other big news out of today, Mountcastle, as you kind of called out before the show, you saw he's coming back today?
Yeah, he's in the starting lineup tonight. I think Mancini's a little banged up. I think he took one off the foot or one off the
multiple ones.
Yeah,
He
one,
takes one every
two.
other day off the foot.
Yeah.
Took 2 off the foot, and then rounding second, he like tripped over the bag. And
Yeah. It's that kind of season for the Orioles. So, yeah, Mancini's out. Mountcastle's in. He's playing first base. So, good to get him back. And hopefully he can get over this concussion thing. Because, again, concussions are so delicate. You just never know how long it's going to take for somebody to bounce back.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that we didn't talk about a whole lot last week because it kind of came out like right before the show. We mentioned it, but we didn't talk about it. And I really want to get everybody's quick opinion on this. Buster Olney came out last week, his comments about competitive balance and how bad the Orioles are. He said the Orioles are on pace to lose 106 games this season, and their previous 2 full seasons, they lost 115 and 108 games. In 2018 and in 2019, this is unprecedented in AL history. When the Players Union cites non-competitive behavior, the Orioles could be used as Exhibit A. It's just wrong.
Is it that unprecedented? Weren't the Astros just in the same boat not too long ago?
Not with multiple 100-plus win loss, 100 loss seasons. I
I'm
don't
pretty
think.
sure if we went back and looked at it, they had a
Consecutive?
few consecutive 100-loss seasons. Yeah.
All right, we'll have to look it up.
And if not, it was like 99. I mean, like that close to 100. You know, it's Buster Olney has never been a pro Oriole guy, especially a Peter Angelo's guy ever since he bought the team.
No.
So Buster's always taking digs at the Orioles. I try not to take this personal because I don't like totally discredit what he's saying. I've always hated the tanking for picks type of thing mentality, but to try to pigeonhole this on just the Orioles, this is something that has been going on forever. This is not an Orioles thing. This is not new. Okay, yeah, maybe the Orioles have lost a few more games than some other teams have had in the past, but it doesn't mean that other teams haven't positioned themselves to have that number 1 overall pick because they're tanking for picks.
15 losing seasons.
Yeah, we went through 15 losing seasons. Nothing like this, but we went through 15 losing seasons. Yeah.
There were 1 or 2 that were like this for sure.
Yeah.
But no, look, I get what he's saying though, right? You want to talk about competitive balance. You should be trying to field a team every year. You should be trying to field a team that is competitive.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with any team that's going through rebuild. To your point, it's not just the Orioles, but any team that's going through a rebuild, it's the problem that you're not going to be competitive if you're rebuilding. You're just doing some stop gaps and you're putting guys on the roster, Orioles, that shouldn't be there, right? We've been seeing it for the past 3 years.
Right.
How many times have we said, yeah, he really shouldn't be here on any other team. He's probably in their double or triple A. That's the problem that he's trying to address and say, the Players Union can use teams like us right now in the fact that, yes, it's a rebuild, but the competitive balance shouldn't take 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. Owners need to step up a little bit. I'm not saying you need to pay these guys like crazy because I think there should be a salary cap, but you got to do something.
There it is. If you want this fixed, you have to implement a salary cap. You have to have a floor and you have to have a ceiling. That's how the NFL gets this right.
Yeah.
That is how the NFL is able to stay the way that they are. And we've been saying this for years, but it's never going to happen.
Players unions will never
They
allow
will
that to
never
happen.
allow that to happen. And that's the shitty part about baseball. You talk about wanting to get fans back into the game. Well, the problem is it's the same 7 or 8 teams that are constantly in competition for a title because they're the teams in the big markets that can spend all the money. Occasionally, you'll get a team that'll go through what the Orioles are going through right now, and then they'll come out on top, a la the Astros. Maybe there was a little cheating in there too. Or you get the rare case of the Rays, who go through this cyclical cycle every 5 years of shit baseball for 5, good baseball for 5. Shit baseball for 5, good baseball for 5. But there's not many organizations out there that can do that. It's the cream of the crop, the guys that can spend $200 million plus a year on a payroll that can compete. And that's why a lot of these smaller market teams don't get the fan base support that they should get because their teams just can't compete.
I would disagree on the Rays. I think they're out of that cyclical piece. They've been competitive about every 2 years or so. So we'll see what happens. Too. All right, Joe.
Honestly, I think Buster Olney's a tool.
Thank you. You said it.
He has a blue check mark next to his name. He's a national writer. He should know better because you can look at the Astros. The Royals have been bad for years. The Rays were bad for years. The A's were bad. And yes, Milwaukee, some of these teams have gotten out of that. But when I look at it, and I know where I'm skipping ahead, they have the number 2 farm system in the MLB right now.
Yeah.
They've never had that, even when they won all their championships with Palmer.
Right.
I don't think Palmer could ever say that he ever had the number 2 farm system.
Right. But the only way you get there, the only way that
is what they're doing,
is by stripping it down to the studs. You have to strip it down to the studs, and that's what the Orioles are doing right now is they're stripping it down to the studs. Could the Orioles spend $100 million more in free agency and be a more competitive team than they are right now? 100%. Spending that $100 million more, is that going to bring them a World Series? No, because there's so many holes on this major league roster right now. You would have to be perfect with how you spent that $100 million to go from where they're at now to being a potential World Series type candidate with $100 million. It's not going to happen. I don't care how you spend that money. We've been there before. When we had the money, we were spending it, just a few years ago, we were at like the $140 or $150 million. Now we're down to like 50, 55.
We're down to Chris Davis.
Essentially, right. Yeah. It's Chris Davis's contract that's eating up half of that $55 million.
Speaking of Chris Davis,
transition.
Honestly, I just want to say one more thing. I remember watching them losing 14 years. I'm like, this is never going to end. And then Buck and Dan showed up. I'm more excited now than I've ever been as a fan that I know the light's the end of the tunnel. It's why they didn't trade Mullins. It's why they didn't trade Mancini or Means. They're closer than you think.
And I agree with that.
They're going to give Mr. Buster only a big F you once they take to the World Series.
And to your point, I think that's a big part of the reason that they went after college bats in this year's draft because they're more MLB
ready faster.
Exactly, ready faster.
We're going to talk about a guy that's going to be ready faster.
What about DJ Stewart?
Yeah.
How is he not DFA'd?
Anyway, so talking about Davis, Davis announced this past week that he retired.
Yeah.
The one sad part about all this is we still got to pay him.
We knew that was inevitable either way.
To break it down for those of you that don't remember, $23 million next year, $9.16 million each year for 2023, 2024, and 2025, and then between 2026 and 2032, he gets $3.5 million a year, and he gets 1.4 from 2033 to 2037. That's a total of $65 million that we still owe him.
He's going to be getting paid by the Orioles until he's like 57, I think is the number that I saw.
Chris Bonilla Davis.
Essentially.
That's what this is going to be at this point. But, I did want to ask you a question because there's a lot of fans that are torn both ways. So I'm really curious to get this room. I think there might be a split here. We'll see what happens. But I'm curious, what is your take on Davis's legacy in Baltimore?
I think we're all going to have short-term memories about how bad the contract was, which isn't Chris Davis's fault. That's Peter Angelos' fault. Peter Angelos was the one who wanted to keep...
Dan Duquette, Peter Angelos.
Yeah, but Peter Angelos beat the door down to get Chris Davis here and wanted to pay him over Nelson Cruz.
How in his right mind was Angelos? Let's realize that now.
Fair point. But the point is, that's not Chris Davis's fault.
No.
And he played damn good baseball and put up ridiculous numbers for a 4 or 5 year stretch from about 2011 through 2016. In that time frame, I mean, he played 1,151 games, hit 253 home runs as an Oriole, was an all-star starter, a Silver Slugger Award winner, 3-time Roberto Clemente nominee, which speaks more to the person than it does the player, which is another thing about Chris's legacy that you have to remember, and finished in the top 3 of MVP voting that crazy year 13. Put this into perspective, right? 2013, his best year as an Oriole. He hit 50-plus home runs, 40-plus doubles, and over 130 RBIs. That's only happened one other time in MLB history, and you know who that was?
Babe Ruth.
Babe Ruth.
I knew that.
He caught fire like Joe Flacco.
Right. Point is. Point is.
Have a straight face.
That was great.
Point
That was
is.
great.
People are going to remember the shit years of Chris Davis, and rightfully so. You can't not remember how bad he fell off a cliff, and it all started with the Adderall thing. He had the approval on the Adderall, and then he didn't have it, and he was still using. Then he got busted. The whole thing, and then it became mental. It became mental for him, and it's sad. I honestly feel bad for the guy. I'm happy that we can now put this to rest.
Feel bad.
I do. I feel bad for the guy because
170 million.
I feel bad for him from a mental standpoint, not the money standpoint. I
understand
feel
that,
bad for it mental because you know how taxing that is. He went from a hero in the city to the villain, and I mean he couldn't go out.
The villain of all villains.
Yeah, he couldn't go outside. He couldn't go shopping or anything without hearing people give him shit all the time. I feel bad for the guy from a mental standpoint. I don't feel bad for him from the money standpoint. He's making a ton of money.
I don't feel bad for mental because when he went to spring training, he was like, I'm not going to adjust anything. I'm going to just do me.
Okay, so if you're going to point out anything that's frustrating over this entire time about Chris Davis, for me, it was the lack of effort in adjustment. Like Cal Ripken, later in his career,
had
right?
80 stands.
Yeah, he tried everything to get himself better when he was struggling at the plate. You never saw the adjustments. You heard about him.
Yeah.
Every spring training, it was like fucking clockwork. Chris Davis, I was working on this. I was doing this. You're going to see this. You're going to see that. And then you come out in spring training.
Nothing.
And it was the same damn thing. It was like replay. I never understood that.
One year where he said he worked out with the hitting coach, and the hitting coach was like, I never seen him.
I don't know. There was the question was posed on Twitter, and that's why I started looking at these stats and looking at the numbers, because I do remember the good years of Chris Davis, but the question was posed, did he do enough, and is Chris Davis a Oriole Hall of Famer in your opinion?
Yes.
From a number standpoint, I think so, because the other thing you didn't mention, right? There were 3 years he was runner-up for the Gold Glove at first base.
Yeah.
And as far as many Orioles fans and some national fans were concerned, he was robbed of that.
I agree.
So imagine taking those stats, that you mentioned: All-Star starter, Silver Slugger, 3-time Roberto Clemente Award, and let's talk about that for a second, right?
The person.
The person. Roberto Clemente, it was all about the community, and that's one of the things that I absolutely applaud with Chris Davis through everything. You
should have a pretty soft spot for this guy because it relates around animals, right? Dogs as well. Does he do a lot for dogs?
Dogs and kids really is where he's been. He's spent a ton of time. Most of it, he's done some with dogs, but most of it is actually with children. Okay. And it's with children, especially in the pediatric cancer ward. They actually him and his wife donated a ton of money the past 2 off seasons to the children's cancer fund, things like that. So hats off to him. He is absolutely an ambassador for the sport in that sense, because he really goes above and beyond. Even during those rough times, he was still making visits to kids in hospitals and things like that.
Say what you want about Davis, the player, but you can't question the person.
I got a question. By him retiring, do you have to pay him next year, or you just
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's what we were talking.
Yeah.
He's still going to make $23 million
I thought
next year.
Since he retired, he doesn't get paid next year's contract, but his offset money he gets. But I just thought, like, if he retired,
no, because it was pretty much everything after this year was deferred money. So everything after this year was all deferred money off the contract. So at that point, you're handcuffed at that point. You have to pay him. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Does it suck? Do I think he's an Orioles Hall of Famer? By the numbers, yes. Unfortunately, I don't know. I know it's obviously the Orioles advocates who vote on the Hall of Fame. Yeah. Are they going to be swayed because he did so much during the early years, but then the later years it was a serious struggle to the point that I think it actually hurts his chances of actually making it, because it's going to be fresh in people's minds. It's kind of that situation that he's a great guy, but I don't know. I can't say with any surety he's going to get. I'd say 60-40 that he's an Orioles Hall of Famer.
Go ahead, Joe. What
Scott,
do you got on this?
you're totally wrong. He is. He's definitely Oriole Hall of Famer.
I think he is, but what I'm saying is, I don't know
Let
if
him state his
advocates will
case.
say that.
Let him state his case. Why?
We're in agreement, but these Orioles advocate got to look at the whole picture. I mean, I guarantee you some of the Orioles that are in the Hall of Fame, they're probably not the best person or they've had struggles in their years. But the dude was dominant. I mean,
Yeah.
I thought a lot about this, and you can remember the great, you can remember the bad, but you know what? I'm just going to think about the good just because he brought winning baseball back to Baltimore.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the home runs he hit were just majestical, and in 2012 especially.
But he didn't hit the warehouse.
I swear that guy.
If anybody was going to,
do
it would have
yeah.
been him. You would have
It
thought.
was him or Jay Gibbons.
Right, exactly. No, and I 100% agree with you because we just talked about it. We went through 15 years of utter shit baseball here in Baltimore, and he was the big piece in the turnaround of that. And he gave us 5 years of upbeat excitement, jam-packed stadiums at the Yard that we hadn't seen in a long time. Right.
He was. Remember him and Reynolds, deputy
Sheriff
and
and
the
the
sheriff.
Yeah.
That's one of those things that people got to remember. You got to think back to. We all rode that high, just like we all should be riding the lows. If you're not going to ride the lows, we all give him shit, but we respected him as a man, right? And what he did and what he did do when he was successful. It does suck. Does it really suck that you weren't really appearing to do all that stuff or doing anything? Yeah, it does. But the one thing that does kind of semi-suck currently out of this situation is he was just on the IR, so you're not gaining a roster spot out of this by him retiring.
Nothing really changes from
a
roster standpoint at all.
It doesn't change anything. He wasn't coming back. It just wasn't going to happen. I don't think they will or should because it's going to turn out ugly for him. I would think that they should offer him to come out and at least come out to the last homestand just to say goodbye. You're going to get booze. It's going to happen. I don't think
he's not going to be in the Orioles Hall of Fame. I was just looking up. Basically, he played 10 years here. He had 2 great years. 2 out of 10. It's not even 50%. Most of his batting average was like batting 100. He had 4 years of batting 100.
He averaged 25 home runs a year.
100. You better check your stats.
I'm checking it right here. He had 2 good years. He had a 2013 hit 53 and 2015 hit 47. You can give half of that to Adderall. So
yeah, but there's a year he had 35 and he hit another 20 plus.
He had 38. He hit 26. Nowadays, with the ball being juiced, he ain't being in the Hall of Fame. You can check.
We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But some other moves. I talked about moves. Some moves that happened really quickly. The Orioles optioned Dustin Knight to Norfolk, and they DFA Adam Plutko. Plutko got killed on Saturday. 7 runs on 5 hits through 2/3 of an inning. Just got killed. So they bring up left-handed pitcher Connor Wade, and then they bring up right-handed pitcher Fernando Abad, who we saw on Sunday.
Right.
Run differential the last 4 series has been horrific since 8-2.
That's why you say, like, when you single out, Plutko's not doing good. He's been bad. And this entire roster has been bad. Like, it's not just one guy.
Yeah,
entire staff.
Run differential 41 to 105. Bullpen's getting killed because starting pitching can't get through more than 5. It's been bad.
Let's focus on something good.
You mean the one?
The one good thing that's going on right now, and that was the diamond, I think, that we found in the rough. The Jorge Mateo.
Picking him up off waivers.
Waiver pickup. We talked about it last week. Again,
continues.
This is a guy that was a top 100 prospect in the Yankee system a few years back. I'm not saying he's the next coming or anything, but I think he can find a role in this roster, and he's still young enough that with the right tutelage and, in the right change, like I said, some team players just need a change of scenery, and this could be it for this guy because he's playing well.
He hit safely in 6 straight games. In Boston alone, he hit 4 for 12 with 2 doubles and 3 Ks.
Yeah,
not bad numbers to have. The one thing that I think is interesting is we're seeing the inexperience really show on this team. And it was interesting because your boy Eduardo, I'm sorry, his name's Rich Dubroff.
It's not Eduardo?
No, it's not Eduardo. It's Rich Dubroff. Rich Dubroff asked a question post-game on Sunday, asking Hyde about the real struggles of really not being able to make contact. Take a listen to what Hyde had to say.
I just see that how much better we have to get in our strike zone discipline. And you watch them compared to us; they're hitters, and they're more experienced, and have a bunch of guys that have been in postseasons and have won a lot of games. But there's just a level of understanding the strike zone, understanding what pitchers are trying to do, not chase, not let pitchers off the hook. It's like that inning with A-Bad. A-Bad got squeezed. There's no doubt about it. But they weren't swinging on balls on the edges. We're continuing to get them. And we have a tough time having innings like that just because we're in swing mode, and good pitchers can pitch to that.
And that's one of the things I kind of wanted to talk about for a quick second. Runners in scoring position with 2 outs. This team is batting .222.
Rough.
When we're within 1 run, we're hitting 450. We have 454 strikeouts. We're within 2 runs, 609 strikeouts. We're within 3 runs, 702. Within 4 runs, 796 strikeouts when you're down by 4 runs.
You know what that tells me?
They're trying too fucking hard.
They're pressing. That's exactly
They're pressing.
right.
And it's interesting because they actually went on to somebody else asked him a question about that. And is it this youth trying too hard to try to come back? And here's what Hyde had to say.
I think so a little bit. Yeah, I think guys are trying to get the big hit and try to maybe do a little too much at times. Because, this is not easy. Once again, it's frustrating for everybody. And we're playing from behind almost on a nightly basis, and that's hard to do. And we're not scoring many runs, and we're having a tough time on the mound a little bit. And so I think that you start seeing some the at-bats kind of get away from us at times.
Sounds like a manager that's like running out of excuses at this point. He's had 12 losses and he's had to come up with excuses in a row that he just has nothing left.
Think about this. When we're ahead, we score 181 runs. When we're behind, we score 188. That's a difference of 7. 7 for the season.
Yeah,
it's bad, guys. That's how bad this is. It's just home runs. We try too hard. We're hitting some of them, but we're trying way too hard with them. And the other big number that I just thought was interesting, when we're down by 3 or 4 runs, take a listen to this. We hit in between 3 and 4 runs, between those 2 stats, 105 ground ball double plays.
It's funny because I don't watch every game, but I do watch a lot, and I feel
you always tune in at that point.
And I feel like every time I watch, there's a double play to end an inning. Any kind of rally that we have going, I'm like, it's going to end in a double play. Sure enough, double play.
Exactly.
That's how it is.
I want to drop us down by the farm real quick because there's a few things going on with the farm system that I think are really good, and we have to touch on really quickly.
Yeah, let's go down this quick. So I know a lot of our question marks out there have been the Manny Machado trade and the pieces that we got back in Manny, and when are we going to see these guys come through? Rylan Bannon was a big piece of that. He was supposed to be the third baseman of the future. Came over here. He had been struggling to get, up in the system. Just hadn't been hitting the ball very well. Well, he was just named the AAA Player of the Week. In 5 games, this slashed 500, 632 on base percentage, 1.643 slugging, 2.275 OPS. He was 7 for 14. 5 home runs, 9 RBIs, and 6 runs. It's a hell of a week for that kid. That's a good sign.
And the other guy that I think is a guy that you should watch, maybe coming up in September. I think we could potentially see this kid. I definitely would love to see him. It's Kyle Bradish.
Yeah.
Right. Kyle Bradish Sunday threw a shutout 2-hitter through 5, 76 pitches total. 50 of them were strikes. He had 7 Ks in that route. He is now through 58 innings pitched and 13 starts at Norfolk, 4.34 ERA, 71 Ks. Little Wild with 31 walks, 28 earned runs. His whip is a little high at 1.53, but his opponent's batting average is only 253. It's not like they're killing this kid. It's average, but it's a guy that you need to come in, let him come in. He could be a good back of the rotation type pitcher because you have some of these other guys that are coming up that could wind up being your front of the rotation type pitchers. And with this guy, he could wind up moving into that middle rotation type role.
I definitely want to see him up here in September to get a little bit of a sample size. Let's do a quick Adley update. It's gotten off to an all right start so far in AAA. He came out red hot out of the gates, but so far he's hitting 381, still great average, 5 RBIs, 2 doubles, a walk. Even has a stolen base, which you don't think of him in speed very much.
I'll take it.
But so far, again, in the 21 at-bats, only 3 Ks. Some were saying they were kind of worried about him going 1 for 4 on, a couple days ago,
on the 11th.
and then the 0-4 on Sunday. Give it a rest. Like, the kid's gonna have ups and downs. He's not going to hit 2 for 4 or 4 for 4 every game. Relax. He is still the best prospect in baseball. He is the future cornerstone of this franchise.
He's still a 280
and he's hitting
plus
381 right now at his sample size. He'll be fine.
Yeah, it's exactly what you want to see. And then the last thing I want to touch on, credit to James for reposting this week. Mass and Orioles writer Steve Molesky has his eye on a guy that he thinks could be in the club this year. And here's the kicker, Fred. You want to know where he started?
Where?
Aberdeen. Oh, okay. His name is Felix Bautista. He's a 26-year-old out of Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic. This kid's 6'5", 190 pounds. He is lean. He is a beanpole, but he can whip that arm because this kid can throw. He's been in the system since 2016. He was originally signed by the Marlins back in November of 2012. They released him in January 2015. So he's 26 years old. Not bad. He's throwing 100 miles an hour multiple times this year. He's been clocked at 100.
That's good.
Here's the better numbers. This year, overall, 3 levels. Aberdeen, Bowie, now Norfolk. He's got a .84 ERA.
Wow.
He's given up 9 hits through 31 2/3 innings. He started the year in Aberdeen with he was 0-2 in his record, but he had a 1.2 ERA.
So he's gotten
in
better.
1 game.
It's gotten better.
Right. June 25th, he's promoted to Bowie. He goes 0-1, but a .68 ERA. This week, he moved up to AAA Norfolk. He's pitched 3 innings. He has a 0 ERA. Here's the thing. This guy's got to be protected from the Rule 5 draft in December. You've got to do something. The only way to do that is...
Put him on the 40-man.
Put him on the 40-man, exactly. Yeah. The big catch here is he's got some command issues. Through 31 2/3 that I mentioned, 23 walks. But that comes with 57 Ks.
That's good.
That's a 6.54 walk rate and a 16.2 K rate. And here's the other kicker. Per 9 innings. Per 9. 2.56 hits.
Yeah.
That's it. Those are impressive numbers.
Yeah, that's a kid that you want to keep an eye on.
Credit James for bringing that out. I saw that on your Facebook, and I was like, we got to talk about this.
That sounds like a good back of the rotation or back of the bullpen kind of guy, a guy that you want that could bring in that extra heat.
Future setup man, future closer. There's a lot of things that could be happening.
We thought the same thing about Tanner Scott. We see where that is right now. We'll see, but so far what we're hearing, things are going good with this kid.
Yeah, so a lot of good stuff.
Yep. All right, guys, time for the Liquor Stop Brew of the Week. And what has Jerry and the crew got us sipping on today?
So this week, it was actually out of the draft. This one is from Dewey Beer Company. This is their double IPA called Nature's Canteen. When I heard that name, I got a little worried. Because sometimes when you have to go, you pee in the canteen.
Oh.
Okay?
Oh.
When you got to go.
I see where you're going.
But
put that down over here.
But this stuff is actually pretty good. It's 8%. It's brewed with Galaxy, Strata, and Comet hops. They say filling your glass with soaked peaches and dank citrus from a wild spring. This is something that was actually pretty good. I wasn't sure. It was between this and a sour. This week he gave me the taste. And
good choice.
Figured you wouldn't take the sour.
Good choice.
But he did tell me to make sure to let the fans out there know, anybody that lives, especially if you're in the Harford County area and you're looking to make some extra buck and get a good discount, they are looking for staff at liquor stop because they're a little understaffed. Some kids graduating and starting to go off to college and everything. So make sure you go up there. Let them know Birdland BS sent you. You wind up getting a pretty good discount, he said.
Yeah.
But go up there, have that stuff. The other thing I had to point out was the fact that we got some other brews this week that he hooked us up with. They're actually, I think, are going to wind up being pretty good. And he did say, make sure you tell him that you came up to see, or that you came from us, because he's going to make sure. He's the one that's been there. He's going to make sure you get that 10% off.
All right, fellas, it's time for this week's rundown.
Woo!
And Scott, I'll let you lead this week's topic off, because I know you were
start.
talking about this pre-show, and this is
man.
something that tugged at the heartstrings for both you and I. How'd that Field of Dreams game go?
Field of Dreams game, man. It was so great. Everything about it, right? Pre-game, freaking awesome. I love the outfits. Did you guys see the A-Rod, Poppy, KB, Frank Thomas
That
thing?
was the only part I thought was
It
stupid.
was corny, but it was funny
It was
corny.
stupid.
It was
funny.
It was
I
funny
like it.
corny. Like, it was pretty good. I love the
Big Poppy. You're a Yankee.
Yeah, I love him coming out and be like, you want to have a catch with me? You still a Yankee. That ain't going to happen. Right? I loved it. The Costner intro, him walking out, honestly, still thinking about it.
Yeah.
Kevin Costner is a great actor when it comes to situational, and coming out, I actually started to tear up. My son, I got to tell the quick story. My son went to go upstairs to get a bath and saw that I turned on a game, and he asked what it was. So I said, this is a game that they play out in a cornfield. You guys know Wyatt. He loves freaking corn.
Yeah.
He loves farming, like all that type of stuff. So he got really interested. And then he said, well, where are the players? I said, well, just watch. Let's see. And so it was a moment for me and him, that really
That's
tugged
cool.
at me and got me going.
That's cool.
The timing, like, of Kevin Costner and the movements with the music.
Yeah.
The time of day. Down to the time of day was perfect.
it was beautiful.
It was perfect timing. It was
Could have been
beautiful.
better weather.
No, better weather would have been. It didn't rain the day before. That's it. Like, that's it. Player intros, they literally appeared. The way the camera angles were set up, how thick the corn was, they appeared out of the corn. I have chills talking about it. I had chills watching it.
Yeah.
Wow, it was great. The game itself, back and forth, home runs galore, which was great, entertaining to see. And then the ending. Could you write another movie
I'm
or
telling
storybook
you,
ending?
that's how movies are written. Endings like that.
Shortstop Tim Anderson hitting a 2-run walk-off into the corn, jumping around the bases, coming in, like, pumping up his team. And White Sox are arguably one of the best teams in MLB right now.
Right.
So, it just goes to show you the momentum that they're on.
Can you imagine how much that ball is worth?
I'm
sure.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. MLB pregame did commit to doing another year.
That's great.
So many questions about that. Here's my quick take and hashtag predictions. I'm going to give you what actually happened because we found out this morning. And if you didn't know, you're going to find out. They said, should the teams, should they stay with the same teams, or next year, what do they do? I said next year, my prediction was they go with the Cardinals and the Cubs. That's what I thought makes sense. Sticking with the old teams, you keep it played during that old time, give it that feel, right? That's kind of where I thought. They actually wound up announcing that it's going to be the Cubs and the Reds, August 11th. We got the date.
Okay.
So that's where it's going to be. The one thing I did think, I'd like to see the series played on this field. I think it's bad that players have to travel and then travel back and then travel back, right?
Yeah, so you're saying like a 3-game series.
Just do the series. Help out the community. They would probably love it and enjoy it, especially if it's only one series a year.
Right.
They're going to embrace it, guaranteed at that point.
Go ahead, James. Oh, I thought you had some.
No, I'm just saying, like, I wish they would pick the better series than the Cubs Reds. Like,
For next year, you mean?
yeah. The
Well,
Cubs
that's
are
after
awful.
the Cubs just dumped everything. But what they're trying to do is you got to get they're trying to get some of the local. You saw the cheers for the White Sox because there were so many White Sox fans
And
that were there.
They should have done Cubs Red Sox.
I said it. I actually thought it again. It should be Cubs Cardinals because the Cardinals you can go right up there too, right? It's not that far off. So we'll see what happens with
Yeah.
it. I do think that people are asking should there be more than one a year. The thought is exactly what happened. I thought they were going to do American League, National League, American League, National League if they continue to commit. I think you do 2 series a year. You do.
I think it becomes watered down at that point. If you do too much,
if you don't go with the series, then I think you do 2 games a year. You do 1 American League, 1 National League.
you could do that, and that doesn't become
Right. That doesn't become watered down at that point, and you can rotate.
I feel like
the teams.
this has that same kind of vibe, like with the hockey game that they do outside in the arenas and stuff, where they do it outdoors instead of it being in the in the arena.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of how this similar vibe. But this is just really well done. And again, it would have been disappointing if this would have just been a boring baseball game. But to go through everything that they went through, all the home runs, the dramatic ending, man, it couldn't have been
the beginning, the ending, the John Smoltz.
They're not going to be able to one up this. My point is, this was the first game, and this is going to be the best game of this series because they'll never be able to redo this.
I don't know if you heard, but Kevin Costner, his best friend, is the guy that designed the stadium.
Yeah, I saw that.
And Kevin Costner was like, "You knew about this, and then tell me about it."
His buddy kept it a secret from him. Yeah.
Secret.
All right, well, staying with dream games, how about the story of Tyler Gilbert?
Oh, is this an Arizona guy?
Yeah, 27-year-old pitcher for the Diamondbacks, who over his previous 3 seasons was a relief pitcher, made his major league debut as a reliever, pitching in 3 games for Arizona this season. But then they gave him his first start on Saturday. And what does he do against the Padres, arguably,
of all teams,
arguably the best team in the National League right now? No hits the Padres. It's just, again, you talk about storybook endings, dream type of games, man. Had to been a really, really cool moment. You saw his father overwhelmed with emotions in the stands, and they kept going back and forth to the camera angles of him.
Wasn't
just
it really close
really
to a
cool
perfect game, too?
Yeah, it was close. It was close to a perfect game. I don't remember how many walks he had, but either way, just to be able to pitch a no-hitter in your first major league start. And this isn't a guy that was like a highly rated prospect or anything. And to do it against a team like the Padres.
So many bats on that team to not even get a hit. That's one of the things that when you see a young arm like that do that in his freaking debut, man. Yeah. God damn, I'd be curious to see what this kid winds up doing in the long run.
Pretty impressive. James, what do you got for us this week?
Mine is Liam Messi had to leave Barcelona, not due to contract. It was more about financial. They didn't have the money to pay for him. And the sad part,
they pay him like $500 million a year or some shit like that. It's ridiculous.
And the sad part is he played 17 years with them. He basically as a young teen, you go over there and he was in their camp, so he brought up in their farm system over there. He's almost like family, and he even took less money to stay with them, and they still couldn't afford to pay him. So he found a new home with PSG. He got 2 years with a 3rd-year option. He's getting $41 million a year.
Can I make that much at his age?
When they released it, they sold 400 million euros, which is about $30 million in jersey sales the first day.
Wow.
You said 400 million euros?
No, 40 million
euros.
Oh,
that's just 400. I was like, that's $300 million. Jesus.
40 million euros, which is about 30 million US dollars. So they basically paid him his first year with his jersey sale.
By the way, I just looked it up. Gilbert, it was 3 walks, and they were all to Tommy Pham.
Really?
Yeah, it's crazy.
All right, Joe, what do you got for us this week over on the Casting Couch?
I'll make it quick.
Hey, that poll's working out very well in your favor.
Wow,
there.
2.4 million for Joe. Oof, we might need to.
Drew's
Drew apparently got yelled at too.
Drew's going to make a comeback.
Tortoise.
Drew's going to make a comeback. It's not how you start; it's how you finish. What do you got, Drew? Yeah.
Anyway, Hornets Ragnar card went to auction the other day. $6.6 million for a baseball card.
It's the second time that thing set a record, isn't it?
I remember collecting cards as a kid, and I still have some. I don't know if they're worth anything. I can't believe that, even you hear with the market, you can't find baseball cards, football cards, or whatever it is. It's crazy to think a piece of paper, I think this big, it's not even a regular sized baseball card because it was so old, sold for that much.
There is nothing more than a dick measuring contest than spending that kind of money on a baseball card. What are you doing with that baseball card? It is literally sitting either in a safe or in some kind of enclosed
it's a plexiglass sitting in the middle of your bedroom going, yeah.
Just fucking hovering. There's nothing, it's just suspended in air. That's the only thing that makes. What are you doing with that $6.6 $2.something million for a piece of cardboard.
It's like a comic book. Still.
Fred, when you have that much money, sometimes you just don't know what to do with it.
My brain can't process that at all. That's just ridiculous.
No rules. No boundaries.
I'll start this week.
30 seconds each. It's time for the 2-minute warning.
I don't know what's happening.
I was trying to flip cameras because Joe was over there doing it.
Thank God I don't have epilepsy. Jesus. Sorry, and I apologize to anybody who does out there. I don't know what just happened there.
Oh, man.
All right, guys, it's time for the 2-minute warning. Who's reading the first question for us?
I got
go
you.
read them both.
I got
Joe's
it.
got it. All right,
James,
I'll start.
James is tired over there.
All right.
Too much work. All right. Time to get some Terps in.
Yeah.
Thoughts on Mike Loxley's quarterback, Talia
Tagovailoa.
There you go.
Tagovailoa, yep.
And the Terps football using the broadcast for the Ravens game to add a walk-on for like scholarship. You know how everyone's got that big thing now. So.
I like this. You're seeing this a lot with football programs and different college programs, unique ways and creative ways to, surprise that last scholarship guy, somebody who hadn't been on scholarship before. And you're talking life-changing for a kid. I think it's really cool. This is now kind of becoming a tradition for Loxley because he did it last year at Ravens Stadium. I'm for it.
Yeah, it's definitely a tradition for them. I think obviously the people that don't understand the situation behind it is the guy that he gave it to, Shalom Falamatu. This guy is another one of the other two Hawaiian players on the team.
Yep.
Tagovailoa is obviously Hawaiian, so the fact that he goes out there, he gets to be the one to tell him. And it's Shalom's senior year. It was a big moment, and I give him credit. Utilize it. Great situation. Great platform. I loved it.
Yeah, I got you. What do you got,
All
Joe?
right, Fox posted this question. Should there be a mercy rule in MLB? So does the game end after someone's leading by 10 runs after 7 innings?
No, this is terrible for baseball and on many levels. This goes back to what we were just talking about, like how people have issues with tanking and stuff like that. If you give a team an out, like, hey, all we got to do is be down by 10 runs. If we're already 7 runs down in the 5th inning and we don't think we're going to come back, well, let's just give up 3 and call it a day. Yeah, you're going to see tanking left and right. This is dumb for baseball.
I don't disagree, but the thing is it's just as dumb as when you decided doubleheader 7 innings, right? It's
Okay.
just as dumb in that sense. So that's where I look at it and go, if you were willing to try that, I don't see them not be willing to entertain this idea and say, look, let's save the guys. The guys that are going to have the problem are going to be some of your relief pitchers who maybe are getting chances, especially the younger guys. But your older guys, your closers, they're not, unless they're set to get in there to get some workout done, they're not going to have a problem with it. So I don't know.
That's a valid point. It's a valid point. All right, good show, fellas. Drew, hope you gets home safe. Ryan, I hope you don't get COVID. Hope everybody in the household is doing well. Sign us out, Scott.
Yeah, man. We appreciate you guys tuning in each and every week. Obviously, you can check us out on our website, www.birdlandbs.com. While you're there, you can check out all of our episodes. You can get yourself some Birdland BS gear. Make sure you go check it out. You can check out the new Shell and Tell podcast, which will be coming out. I think you guys said you're recording this coming week.
We're recording tomorrow.
So, all right, there you go. So, hopefully, look out for that. Also, make sure you check us out on all of our social media pages. At Birdland BS is how you find us. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook. Wherever you check out and you're on your social media, we are there. If we're not, let us know. I don't know if there's many other social media platforms. Make sure if you want your comment heard to let us know. Reach out to us. Craig Zero, I know that you sent us stuff before. We try to also include the comments in there. For those of you that have also asked, if you didn't see it down the bottom, the ticker has how you are able to donate to the show. We appreciate donations. We don't ask for them, but
thank you again, Stephanie.
Those that do, we definitely appreciate it because it helps to just really go to this production. We really don't make a profit off this thing. This is fun for us. We love doing it for you guys. So appreciate everybody that does. Make sure you also, if you want to check us out on all of our all the podcast platforms, obviously we are a show, but we keep the audio version of the show on the podcast platform. So Google Podcasts, Apple Play, Spotify, wherever you listen, we're there. Make sure you go check us out. So for Fred, James, Joe, I almost said Drew. Drew on vacation. Drew on vacation. Ryan not here. We'll see you guys all next week. 7:30 Eastern Standard Time.
See ya.
See ya.
It's time for the after party.
It's last call for alcohol.
All right. Those good shows, fellas.
All right. So for the Ask the Internet, I've got 2 questions. I just went ahead and picked them out just now.
We're hopping right into this, huh?
We forgot to do it. Yeah, let's just do it. Let's just do it. All right. So the first one is I think has a relevancy to it.
Okay.
And you get what I mean by this. And I'm curious to see how everybody feels. If money didn't matter, would you rather be the first pick in the draft and have to rebuild a shitty team, or the last pick in the draft and instantly have a good team?
I mean, if money isn't a factor, yeah, I'm going straight to the winning team. I mean, I understand the sense of accomplishment from rebuilding a team and proving that you could be that critical piece that turned a tide for a struggling franchise, but your goal is to be the next Tom Brady and you want to win multiple championships and all that stuff. For me, I guess path of least resistance if the money doesn't change either way.
All right. James?
I would have to go with the opposite, be the number 1 pick. So people, they always remember the first, they don't remember the last. So if money's not the issue.
I don't know. I think people remember Lamar, the first pick of the last pick of the first round.
Another valid point. Another tick for Scott.
I think they're talking about last of the last pick of the draft.
That'd be the last pick of the first round. Would be the worst, the best team.
Mr. Irrelevant.
Mr. Irrelevant. I think that's what it's about.
All right, fair enough. What do we got over there, Joe?
Tom Brady was almost
I
Mr.
think I
Irrelevant.
would,
Won a lot of games.
I think I'll be with Fred. I think I would rather be the last pick on a winning team.
Yeah.
If money didn't matter.
Yeah.
Just dominate.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm right in agreement with you guys. I think part of it is what we went through with the Orioles. How many times now? I think that's part of it. Is it's like you see, with the first pick can be good, but we've also been through the times where we've been close to the last pick.
Garnett with a good one there. He said, "I'd like to choose my team." Yeah, in a perfect world, right? To be able to choose your team would be awesome. But I will say this, and it's kind of counter to what I said, and I don't know if you guys did this when you were kids. But when I was playing games when I was a kid, talk baseball games, Madden, all those stuff, I tended to pick the worst teams to prove that I could beat the best teams in the games, the 49ers and all that stuff. I went the opposite way in video games a lot of the time. I don't know if you guys did that, but I did.
All right.
If I wasn't picking the Orioles and the Ravens, and a lot of times the Orioles were the worst team in the game. So it was easy.
Fair enough.
Got a lot of practice at that.
All right, this time we'll go in a little bit reverse order. This question, if you had to have a theme song play every time you arrived somewhere, what would it be?
Say that one more time.
If you had to have a theme song play every time you arrived somewhere, what would it be?
A theme song?
A theme song. Go ahead, Joe.
I got it.
Hold on. All right,
Hit it. Hit the button. I can't stand up. I'm tripping on the court.
That was pretty fucking good.
That's right. You have Ace Ventura. All righty then. So that's right. Every time you played that, that's what it reminded me of.
All right.
That's a good one.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
That's all that popped in my head.
I liked it.
James, you got one?
Not really.
Oh.
James.
You never had a walk, something that you dreamed as a walk-up song that you could use the same way? Think about it as a walk-up song.
I don't give a fuck what it is. Whatever the hottest song is, I don't
So
care.
he's going to be playing Taylor Swift. That's what it is.
So when I was a kid, I did. I went through all those, like, this would be my song or whatever. Pretty much any song on Metallica's Black Album was fantastic. And they are great walk-up songs, man. There's so much, like, tempo to it and build-up that, yeah, those were the ones that I liked the most.
So mine for a while has been one that we saw an Oriole actually come out to.
Chris Davis.
Baby Shark.
Nope. I'm gonna tell you. I'll give you a hint. Out of the bullpen.
Britain.
Nope.
Enter Sandman?
Nope.
That was Rivera.
There was Rivera, right.
O'Day.
Nobody knows it. Wow.
So
What year are you
by
talking
Foo
about?
Fighters.
Okay.
Johnson.
Jim Johnson.
Gotcha. That's a good one.
I love that. When he came out to that, I was like, "Oh, this is my song!" Like,
all right, I'm gonna name a artist, and you have to tell me locally who was the player that walked out to that artist.
oh Jesus Christ!
Bubba Sparks. Damn, I figured if somebody knew, they would get it quick.
Robert Andino.
No,
I have no
That
clue.
was Leaders.
nope.
Jones?
It was Markakis. It was Markakis, the fishing pole in a bottle
Yeah,
of shine. It was
all right.
the
Yeah.
Bubba Sparks song. I loved that song back in the day, and he had that his entire career that he was here. It
David
was his only
says
song.
David says we would all come out to the Birdland BS intro song.
I like that.
David, answer of the night. There it is.
Hey, I tell you what, if
I love it. That's
if I was
great.
Chris Davis, I would come out to this song. That's really hot.
God.
Oh Jesus! What is? Do I need to put his button, his thing on mute? Like, do I need to be prepared for this?
What is it?
It's not even-
Every single day, cause I love my occupation.
All right, cut that off, because we're gonna get flagged. We're gonna get flagged.
But that would be
Those
my song.
algorithms pick that stuff up quick.
Oh jeez.
Garnet says, "Hate me now." Oh, that's a good one.
Hey, now he also says, or Bill Goldberg wrestling entrance.
Oh, God.
You gotta get the flares out.
Yeah. Or even Stone Cold, right? The glass breaking when you're coming out. That was a cool one. Hell yeah. Give me a hell yeah. I love it.
Oh man. No, I thought those were good questions.
No,
this week.
they were good questions. Were there any questions or any topics or anything in the chat room that you wanted to bring up, James?
Well, Chuck Summers said he would like to be last, but except Pittsburgh and New England.
Okay.
And there was this Drew tried in, but I think Admit put up
Keep Bradish in Norfolk and bring him up with Rutschman next year. Kyle Bradish and Adley equals great. Bradish with anyone else is average. Look, I don't disagree, but the difference is you're bringing him up. Either of those guys, if you're bringing him up this year, I think Bradish is closer than Adley is, but bringing him up this year just gets him a little bit of exposure to some major league hitters, especially when we hit that latter half of the season, right? We're going to be looking, we got to remember, we're coming into that time where it's going to be a lot more of the AL East. It's going to be a lot more of the AL and teams that are many teams that are probably in the hunt, right? So that's one of the things you got to remember is you can see what it's a true measuring stick for a team like the Orioles. That's what September is. September is a time to measure what you have and what you need to work on.
I don't think bringing him up in September does any detriment to him. No. So I think it'd be good for him to get at least a small sample size of what it's going to be like at the MLB level. So I understand what you're saying though, because yes, Bradish is a better pitcher when Adley Rutschman is receiving. So I agree with that. And I think that's true with all the pitchers that have come up through the minor league system.
And the other thing about Bradish too, right, is it's not going to hurt him to do a single spot start in a month. Right. A spot start can give you a good idea. Spot start early in the month is fine. You can then send him back and have him work on stuff. I know that they finish out their season, I think, at the beginning of September. So, that's kind of the end of August, beginning of September. So that'll be kind of the benefit to that.
And
ahead,
if
James.
it doesn't work out with Jorge Matos, whatever,
Mateo.
Mateo.
he can always deliver the jacket from the bullpen. Because he's pretty fast.
Record time.
Record pace.
Do you remember that kid?
Yeah, he's like,
Oh, man, it was great.
3 or 4 of
Jonesy
them.
used to clap at
Yeah,
him.
but there was
but the
one
one
in
with Jim
particular.
Johnson,
He would just run straight up.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, as hard as he could.
He was the
book.
original one. He was the original one that could book.
Yeah.
That
Go
kid
ahead,
has some
Joe.
speed.
Scott, I think Mateo's intriguing, but he reminds me of Tim Beckham. I had to look up his name. You remember he was DFA guy too.
Yeah.
He came here, gangbusters, and then what happened?
Right.
Went to Seattle. That's the thing that worries me with those guys that are top guys that bounce around a lot of teams. There's a reason why he's not on the.
He was at the Marlins with steroids or something.
No, but he's the reason he's not on the Padres. I mean,
I agree with that, but
I told Fred last week he was with the A's, he was with the Padres, he was with the Yankees. If you didn't make it with any of those teams, the Orioles are you.
So let me ask you guys this question, right? What are your if that's kind of your mentality? What are your thoughts on a guy like Steve Pearce?
Steve Pearce played for every American League East
he
team.
produced, though. He produced.
Right.
But when again, he was with the Orioles and the Red Sox.
Because he
Mateo's
produced.
not really been like, I get what you're saying.
But he produced because he wasn't an everyday starter in the same spot, in the same role every single time.
He started every day somewhere, though.
But, right, exactly. But that's the difference is when for a guy like him, when you can get into a rhythm and hitting, but you can get out there in the field and you can kind of do whatever, it works for him. There are guys that does work for. It doesn't always. But another guy that we were kind of, you think about him, he had some bad moments, but he had some really good fucking moments too recently. Stevie Wilkerson is another prime example in the Orioles organization that he had positive notes within the organization, right? He's going to be a playmaker. Is he going to be a playmaker every day? No.
He could be
He can pitch. He can pitch, too.
Let's switch it up here. So Garnett brings in a good question. He said, would you guys trade Anthony Averett for a plug-and-play lineman now? Here's how I'm going to answer that. So I'm waiting until we know health and availability for week 1. I'm not trading him now. And if all is good health-wise, we know the timetable for Jimmy Smith isn't going to be too long. The Marlon Humphrey incident's not going to be detrimental. And the depth pieces have all worked out like we thought. Bringing in a guy like Westry and he makes the roster. Steven shows progression. Sean Wade shows progression. And these guys are going to be factors. Then, yes, I'm open because I don't think the Ravens are going to be able to afford Anthony Averett. Not that he's going to get like top 20 pay at cornerback, but I think he will get pay. He will get a good contract, and the Ravens already are tied to a lot of money with Humphrey and Peters, right? That I don't think they're going to be able to spend that kind of money to keep a budding star like Averett around. So cash in now while you can. Trade him, get that valuable piece on offensive line because I think that's going to mean more, especially this season.
Yeah, I think Averett would be great in a situation where you had a really young, a much younger cornerback core, right? And much younger DB core that he could help to, be a tutor to and kind of really talk him through some things.
And he's young himself.
He is, but he's a veteran of the game in a sense.
He's a veteran because he's played behind 2 elite cornerbacks.
Right.
But based on age and playing time, he's still young.
Yeah, no. So you're going to have somebody that's going to potentially overvalue him, which then, brings it back to you. The problem is that's, we've talked about this before, and you've kind of made me, realize the error of my ways, so to speak. There's not many teams that are willing to part with a lineman.
No, and that's true.
It just doesn't happen.
I'm only answering this question because the question was posed. It's going to depend on who that lineman is. But, yeah, a plug-and-play type of lineman, a swing tackle, for me, if I can get a guy that can be that swing tackle, or if Villanueva isn't performing like we'd hope him to, like we hope he could, and he can plug in at right tackle and be a starter, yeah, I'm trading Anthony Averett for that.
Would you trade to the Cowboys? Cowboys could use some secondary help, right? And their offensive line is not horrible.
I don't give a shit who the team is. It depends on what player I'm getting back. But yes,
fair enough.
If that's the offer.
That's just one team that comes to mind that needs secondary help. We all know that. And they have a pretty decent offensive line that's been able to help, for the most part, keep their running back when he's not going crazy and their quarterback when he's not getting hurt.
Right.
It's a pretty decent line. It's not a top tier line, but it's a pretty decent line that you could get something back for.
This team goes by how this running game goes. I know we all want to see the progression in the passing game, and we will. I think we'll see this passing game take another step this year. But this offense lives and dies by the run. And if there's question marks at offensive line, that hinders that. So I think the depth at offensive line is more important
real quick. Let's put our GM hat back on. Let's not be the fan. Let's be a GM. What happens if one team is calling for for Tucker for a first-round pick, are you going to give him up? Ryan agreed with me. What happened to this guy that
Ryan
we got
was
in?
saying that just to simply say
no,
it.
no,
Yes.
he didn't. No, he didn't. You can pull it up.
Did.
No, he
yes,
didn't.
He did.
No,
I don't care what Ryan
Tucker's
says.
the GOAT.
No.
No.
What happened? Someone says, "Hey, we'll give you a number one for him."
No way.
You guys were asking this same question when Kari Vedvik was doing as good as he did. And how pissed off would you be if we traded Tucker away for a first-round pick and we were left with Vedvik and how
And what
bad
happened?
he ended up
no,
being?
but he did good here. Maybe he would have been still good here.
he was a
was
bad
kicking
kicker.
in a dome with no fucking wind, and he couldn't hit it. No.
Listen,
No.
I understand a first-round pick for a kicker is a lot of value. I don't know if that offer would ever even be a realistic offer, but Justin Tucker is the greatest kicker of all time. There's no arguing that. He is the greatest kicker of all time. He is still in the prime of his career. No.
Yeah.
And that's not a fan. That is being a GM. That is no. I'm not entertaining that offer.
I'd love you to tweet that to Eric DeCosta's wife because I think she might unfollow you or block you.
Hey, I'm just saying, I received calls for all players are available. If you can find a kicker, all these teams find kickers.
Really? How about the Chicago Bears?
We find kickers.
How about the Chicago Bears? When's the last
The
time the Chicago
Ravens
Bears had a
always
kicker?
find kickers and tight ends.
David posed a question. Will we ever find or ever have a replacement for Nada? Yes. I think we have that in Matabeast. I think Matabuike is the next type of Nada.
He can
a little
develop
bit
into
more,
what Nada was.
I think he's even more athletic. Nada had the run stuffing
more
ability of a Brandon Williams, but more athleticism, more pass rush ability than Williams. I think Matabeast is going to be the closest thing to a Nada.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think that's one of those things you look at and everything that we're hearing out of camp, not just from the coaches and the media, but from the players. We mentioned this last week. The players are really behind this kid. They're the ones giving him the nickname. Look,
when you got veterans like Calais Campbell, Derek Wolfe,
Justin Houston
singing this guy's praise, that goes to show what kind of talent this kid has. And it's still untapped. He's just scratching the surface. He didn't get a ton of playing time last year. He's going to get more playing time this year. And I ultimately think this is Brandon Williams last year in Baltimore. So he's going to get a real good amount of playing time next year.
Well, I've said it. I really think you could wind up, you move Calais a little bit more on the inside and you play Matabuike on the outside. He's going to be able to get to him. Imagine that, right? You got two guys that can stuff the run pretty well, and you've got two guys that can get to the quarterback at times. It's going to be, who the hell are you going to block? You have four guys that legit at times need double teams.
Yeah.
All four of them at some point.
Garnett says he would take it. I'm assuming he's talking about the Tucker thing. A first round for Justin Tucker.
Jesus Christ. Garnett, we might need to talk,
Dude,
buddy.
Bless your heart, Garnett.
We had no
Bless your heart.
problem finding kickers and tight ends.
Jeez, man.
No.
Garnett did also say Carolina just traded away their second-round draft pick, a tackle, for a sixth-round pick.
Yeah, if you can find that kind of value,
Good
by
on
all
Carolina.
means,
Let's
right.
look at their choices recently. Just saying.
Yeah. Listen, I'm all on board with more offensive line depth, especially with some of the injuries and stuff that we have and a lot of question marks with guys coming back. But we'll see. I have all the faith in Eric DeCosta, and I think this roster will come together nicely. He's going to have some real tough decisions when it comes to cutting down to that final 53.
Yeah. Garnett says, we'll take his one last question here. Do you guys think we're putting a lot of pressure on him? Matabeast, I believe.
Yeah, you don't want to put the horse before the cart before the horse, whatever. He's got to get out there and perform, but everything that we've seen out of him, I think has been glowing. I don't think we're putting any pressure on him. I think we're just singing his praise, and it's well deserved. He was drafted in the third round, I think. So he doesn't have the pressure of a first round pick or anything. So I don't think he's getting any undue pressure. I think our expectations might be getting a little high because some of these other players are hyping him up and whatnot, but
I think that's the thing is when we heard Derek
trust
Wolfe,
their opinion.
Derek Wolfe last week, when he makes the statement, when he realizes the talent and athleticism that he has, that was his statement about Matabuike, right? He's recognizing this kid's still young. He still doesn't recognize, I kind of, the way he said it, I think about this as you get a bigger dog, like Goose.
Yeah.
my dog, Golden, not 80-pound Golden, that doesn't recognize he's 80 pounds.
Yeah. I remember those
And a little
days.
bit of a beast, right? Like, that's the thing is he's still look at him like a young pup in that sense. He still doesn't know. The people around him are going like, this kid's got potential off the fucking charts. And this is guys that have a high football IQ, like Calais Campbell, Justin Houston. Calais Campbell also giving a lot of credit in his interview. I don't know if you saw that with on Saturday, him giving a ton of credit to Justin Houston and being like, I got a guy that's coming in here that I can talk to on a football IQ level. Mm-hmm. And it's nice to have that guy because now those two guys can be on the same page. So you got them on the same page, and they're just all they're going to do is bring everybody in that room up.
Yep.
That's all they do.
David says he has to break Big Ben's nose. Yeah. Oh, man. That's still one of the classic moments in Ravens history was Nada breaking his nose. That was fantastic.
Yeah. All right, man.
Appreciate you guys tuning in. As always, we'll be back next Tuesday night. Same time, same channel. See you guys.